A few years ago, a man won the Spanish national lottery with a ticket that ended in the number 48. Proud of his accomplishment, he revealed the theory that brought him the riches. "I dreamed of the number 7 for 7 straight nights," he said. "And 7 times 7 is 48. Those with a better command of our multiplication table might chuckle at the man's error. 7 squared isn't 48? I actually never did learn the multiplication table in elementary school, but now is good of a time as ever to learn something new, I suppose. I was thinking we can use the power of VBA, Visual Basic Applications, the programming language of Excel, to assist me in learning some simple multiplication. So here in Excel, I just create a very simple macro. There's a button here, and attached to it is a macro or subroutine. So before I show the code, let me just demonstrate what happens when you click on it. It will give me a pop-up window asking me a question. For instance, what is 4 times 8? And 4 times 8 is, let's see, 32, I think. So if I write 32 here and click OK, turns out it is correct. 4 times 8 is indeed 32. So what happens if I click again? Now we get a different question, 1 times 8. But what happens if I get it wrong, if I say 5, for instance? It tells me it is incorrect. So what's happening here is that this subroutine will generate 2 pseudo-random numbers, which are uniform and discrete from 1 to 10. So with equal probability, it will create 2 different numbers that can be like 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 10. So this time, for instance, we got 9 times 8. So how does that work? So if you're starting out with a fresh worksheet, you can open up the VBA editor either by going to Developer over here and click on Macros, or alternatively, you can use the shortcut Alt F11. Here I have already created a subroutine, but when you start out, it will be gray, so you need to go to Insert and then to Module. Alternatively, you can just use the keyboard, so in sequence, Alt, I for India, and M for Mike, and you get a new module. But I already created it, so just let's take a look at that. So at the very beginning here, we start by writing sub, which is short for subroutine, which is colloquially referred to as a macro. Then we have a name for the macro, and it can be whatever you want. Just make sure to avoid certain characters and don't use white space. Then open parentheses, end parentheses. And when you click enter, it will automatically add this end sub. All of the subsequent code needs to be between these two. So the first order of business is to come up with some parameters. For instance, max and minimum, 10 and 1 in this particular case. So I will generate random numbers which are from 1 to 10. If I feel like I've mastered the small multiplication table, then I might graduate to the slightly bigger multiplication table. But for the time being, let's stick to a minimum of 1 and maximum of 10. Next I do is to generate 2 pseudo-random numbers. And here we say integer of max minus min plus 1 multiplied by R&D plus minimum. So the integer function is actually the ceiling function. So whatever kind of decimal number you throw at it, it will round upwards to the nearest integer. So for instance, 5.5 becomes 6, but 5.005 also becomes 6. It will never run down, it will always run upwards. In here we have R&D, which is a random number. So this is based on the Wishman-Hill algorithm. So this is an algorithm that in a completely deterministic fashion will generate a number that behaves as if it's random. And it will be between 0 and 1. So 1 or 0 is included here, but 1 is actually not included. It will get very close though. It will be 0.999999999999999, so 15 up to 15 decimal series of nines. So uniform and continuous, basically 0 to 1. And the rest here is to scale this pseudo-random number so that it becomes from 1 to 10 rather than 0 to 1. And the ceiling function or the integer function here is to turn it into a discrete rather than a decimal number. So we just do this twice. So this will be the two numbers we're going to multiply together. Next, I want to kind of propose the question, come up with this pop-up box that has like the question, like what is x1 times x2 question mark, right? So I have a variable here which is basically just different strings and variables concatenated together. So I start out with the string, and string are in quotation mark. What is, and notice a white space here, then the whatever this is called,
ampersand,
which means we are combining or concatenating together different things. So here we're concatenating together a string and then a variable. And x1 is defined up here, and another string, white space times, and x2, which is the other number we're multiplying together, and just a string here, which is just the question mark. And then I've added this underscore here, and this just means that I'm breaking a line or a line of code into two actual lines. So this should actually be on the same line like this. But you see it's kind of leaving the screen. So this underscore, I can put it on the next line, and the editor or the compiler will still interpret it as like one line of code, which can help with the readability. Now VB new line just means that I'm gonna have a line break in this string that I'm making. I can't just click enter. So no matter how much enter I click in here, it's not gonna do anything for the output. So this is just line break, and then other line break. And then I just display the same question again, like x1, and then like the asterisk as a multiplication sign, and the other integer, and equals mark, and a question mark. So let me just show it again. So what we just talked about would be this box right here. What is 1 times 5, question mark, 1 times 5 equals question mark. And if I don't answer the question, it will just give an error message because I did not actually make any, I didn't code any output for what happens when you just try to cancel the question, which is fine. So next I do here, once I created this variable, remember this is like a one big like a message I'm gonna give. It doesn't do anything yet. So I put that inside of an input box. So an input box here, and inside of it, we have this variable question, which is just the strings and variables concatenated together. And when I made this code first, I was struggling, I didn't get it to work, and the reason was I forgot about this part. So if you don't specify what the data type should be here, then it won't work. So whatever you put into the input box, that gets assigned to this variable that I just call ANS, which is just short for like the answer provided by the user. And this answer is going to be like an integer. Next, I'm checking whether the answer is correct. So that means I first need to calculate the actual solution, and our solution is just equal to x1 times x2, because it's a simple multiplication, right? And then I have an if then else statement. So if the answer, which comes from the input box, is equal to the solution, which we calculated up here, then we're going to create this message, which is essentially just saying that correct, x1 times x2 is equal to whatever the solution happens to be. If that is not the case, so if answer is not equal to solution, then we create this alternative message which says incorrect ... x1 times x2 is equal to the solution. And then finally here I just give a feedback here. So this message which we created, either this one or this one, gets outputted in like a message box. And I did one additional thing here, just to show that you can kind of show a little trick here. So message is equal to message and something else I can add in. I don't need to define the whole message in one go. If I want to add in incrementally after different calculations, I can do that. So we have one of these two messages, and then I add in x1 times x2 is equal to solution. So let's just show that one more time back in the spreadsheet. If I click on this button, 8 times 6, let's see what's that. Let's just take something wrong, 10 or 12 for instance. If I click OK, incorrect. 8 times 6 is equal to 48, and then I just displayed it again in a different way. So the reason that I split it up like this down here is because I don't want to write the same thing twice. So actually I could have just added this also down here, so I don't have to needlessly repeat myself. So that is some if then else logic, and some string concatenation, and some pseudo-random numbers, which are uniform and discrete, and the input box, getting user inputs, and some message boxes. So let's see if this can help me learn the multiplication table.